Alright, welcome back. This is a review for Fruits Basket 2019, episode 16. So, before I get into the actual episode, I'm going to say that this is kind of interesting because it's a little bit out of order, to say the least. Just a little bit. Well, kind of. Alright, so last episode was the Lake House, which was episodes 25, or chapters 25 and 26. Well, Uo's backstory is a three-part chapter, but it's actually chapters 39 through 41. So we just skipped like 13 chapters. So we went from like the beginning of volume 4 to like the middle of volume 7 with Uo's backstory. Yeah, Uo's backstory really wasn't supposed to happen until after the I won't say the name, but after the sheep is introduced. Uo's backstory wasn't supposed to happen until after the sheep was introduced. So, yeah, kind of interesting that they decided to jump it forward, which means that it's a little weird because, like, I mean, it's fine considering that for the most part it's all backstory, but it is a little strange because, like, well, in the manga, this is like supposed to be like the beginning of summer. That's why they're in the pool basically, and it was supposed to be like, oh, this is summer and whatnot. But I guess they kind of changed the dialogue a little bit to be like, oh, well, no, it's supposed to be like, oh, they're just at least in the subbed anyway, they kind of kept it as it was summer in the dub. But kind of, let's say, imply it. In the sub anyway, it's like, oh, well, they're just swim class, and it just kind of feels like summer. And so it's interesting that they decide to go with that they decided to bring it forward. It's a bit strange. There is another quote in there. There's at least two quotes that kind of got somewhat changed. The first one being the one went to the pool, and the second one being when they're at the restaurant, and it was like, oh, well, you guys are probably gonna go to a beach anyway at some point, so you might as well get her a swimsuit. Yuki being like, yeah, we probably will. Well, in the manga, it's like, oh, you guys are planning on going to the beach, right? And Yuki being like, yeah, we are. We're gonna be going not too far from now. So it's kind of weird. They kind of had to change up the dialogue just a little bit there, but I mean, it's fine. Let's see. But other than that, that's really about it in terms of just them rearranging. It's still a bit strange to me, but it's fine because for the most part, it's just mainly backstory. Anyway, so on to the actual story, on to the actual episode itself. So the first, I'd say, third of the episode, I guess. Yeah, the first third of the episode is a little bit more definitely more on the comedic side, in that it's, Uo, Toru, and Hana are, they're at their school pool, and Uo gets upset because they're in high school and they don't have to wear like the school uniform the school swimsuit anymore, but Toru still wears her middle school swimsuit. And so Uo gets upset about that, and then gets the idea of, oh, we'll go get the boys to buy her a new one, and that's what happens. And then you just get the absolutely hilarious scene of them swimsuit shopping, and Yuki and Kyo just kind of sitting there, trying to looking away from the swimsuit department, being like, no, we're not supposed to be here. This is too awkward. And just that, it's mainly Kyo in particular who's protesting the most, but it is hilarious watching that scene. I was actually, there's actually quite a few people who were curious if they were actually, since they were since we found out that they were going to do this episode, they were curious as to whether or not they're actually going to include the swimsuit scene. But they did, and it was, it's so good. I'm so happy about it. It's pretty fun. And then of course there's before I forget to mention, there's also the scene at the very end with the little gang girls trying to practicing how they're gonna act tough and whatnot, and then try to pick a fight with Momiji, and Momiji just starts speaking German to them, and they run off, and it's hilarious. Which that in itself is actually not even in the manga. That is completely new. That was not even in the manga, but it is absolutely hilarious regardless. Anyway, but the majority of the episode is actually about Uo and her backstory, and what exactly she means by when she says that Toru and Kyoko saved her from the life that she was, from the road in a sense, or the life path that she was going down at the time. So you get her backstory of her mother left them for another guy when she was like in the first grade, and her dad kind of started drinking to cope with it. And she eventually, when she was in the fifth grade, joined a female gang, and she was fine with it. She was like, it was just so easy to go get caught up into the wrong crowd and such, and so she would get into fights and all that sort of stuff. And but through all of that, she still looked up to she wound up looking up to the legendary red butterfly, or Kyoko in this case. And she basically idolized her and everything, and she's like, oh, she's just such a great person. And then of course she was excited about when she found out that Kyoko had a daughter, and that said daughter was supposed to be around her own age, and that she might even go to the same school. And so she started imagining as she went to school that this is totally what her daughter would be like. And then of course she runs into Toru and finds out that Toru isn't anything like she'd imagined her to be. And then of course she meets Kyoko and finds out also that she isn't anything like she'd imagined. And of course she's let down by this, but Kyoko's just like, well, I mean, life goes on. That's just how it is. You move on. You relax. You don't have to be so uptight about everything. You just have fun. And you kind of get it was like, she kind of was like, oh, I'm just kind of whatever. She didn't. She said, she kind of makes herself think. She kind of tells herself, oh, being in that sort of environment where the parent and the child, everything's all lovey-dovey and whatnot, everyone's kind of happy or whatever. That's not the kind of environment I need to be in, or that fits me. I fit more into the rebellious kind of rock bottom type of place, or that's where I'm most comfortable. And then, but you see when at that final scene, which was also the very beginning scene in the episode, that she's kind of realizing that maybe it isn't, that she isn't quite, that she isn't, everything isn't quite the way she thinks it is. And of course the episode stops, and you have to find out more next episode, where we get the rest of, because this only covers this chapters 39 and the first half of 40. Next episode will cover the rest of 40 and all of 41. So of course it ends about halfway through a chapter, so it's not, you haven't reached the conclusion yet of her story. But basically from this episode alone, it's about, you can't always idolize people. Putting people up on a pedestal isn't always the best idea, because they tend either A, not to live up to those expectations. They tend to not live up to those expectations, / they tend not to be the person of whom you assume they were. And of course that's just kind of more in a very narrow sense, but in a more broader sense, you could even say that as if you have an opinion of someone, whether that's negative or a positive opinion, and you don't really know the person very well, sometimes, you roll with that opinion and you think, oh, this is what this person is like, but then when you actually finally get to meet that person and know that person, you realize that they aren't who you thought that they were. And that's exactly pretty much how Uo was going, in that she idolized Kyoko, the red butterfly, literally, and that she, as a symbol. And then even was starting to do that with Toru before she met her. Idolizing the red butterfly's daughter, only to realize that she's not who she thought she was. She's not who neither of them are in any way, shape, or form who she thought that they were going to be. But that's, again, the story isn't finished. I'll have to find out. We'll have to watch the rest of it tomorrow to see where it goes. But that's really about it. Hopefully, after tomorrow's episode, when I see the preview, I should be able to actually make my speculation video. And I've also kind of been busy a lot lately, so I haven't really been able to make it either. Anyway, but that's about it. So, thanks for watching, and bye for now.